Hi, thank you everybody for joining us on Quantum Healing today. My name is Melanie, and today we have Dannion Brinkley. You're going to love Dannion Brinkley. Has a great sense of humor, and he has died a few times and come back. And so that's why we're here, is to share about his experiences and his path and what has led him to now help millions of people all around the world. So how are you doing today, Dannion?
I'm quite happy and excited to be on your show, Melanie. I mean, the whole world is coming to realize that quantum healing is not some future event. It's now. Okay. The whole concept of that we are energetic beings is a reality. It's a reality. Okay. And knowing that it's a reality, then it becomes so important for people to understand that about themselves. Because everything is driven by bad diet, bad opinions of the diet, okay? And then no one listening to you. While you're trying to talk it through, you're trying to get a grip on it. It may sound crazy, but nobody's listening to you. But now quantum is now a reality. If you own a cell phone and don't believe in quantum healing, you are gone crazy. Okay, the end of the story. But I believe that based on being Dannion Brinkley, which is I am fabled for getting up from the dead. And I always used to laugh, Melanie, and say, I've been dead so many times, it's like a comedy routine. But I've also been a hospice volunteer for 46 years and have tens of thousands of hours at the bedside of watching what happens to people as they prepare to go from this world to the next. And as the caregiver or the person who stays behind what they're going through. And by studying that, based on that I've been dead and I've gotten up, then I understand what people go through in the final hours and minutes of their life and what the caregiver goes through. Because when people want to understand PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, I tell them to go interview my brother and sister of how many times they had to come and tell me goodbye. They've had to come and say goodbye to me 4 times, all right? No, 3 times. The resuscitation was different, but they have had to come and tell me goodbye, and it just never happens. So I wanted to be on this show today, first to honor and appreciate you. And that the way a person looks at quantum as a value, you have a cell phone. How can I take a picture of you and send that picture to Russia to a friend in some little village somewhere in 2 seconds? And is that possible? Yes. Okay, then how can that happen? And you not realize that you are even more intricate, more sophisticated, more brilliant. You connect physical, you connect mental, you connect ethereal, and you connect spiritual. That's your operating system. And by not looking at it as an operating system, you don't take care of yourself. You get sick and or you face transition. So I just wanted to be on the show to praise you and to thank you for being somebody who's gone through it and did like I did. I got up from the dead and I could have whined and, but I decided that if I had to make a difference with what I knew from being a tough guy, bad boy, I knew that I was a spiritual being and there was nothing I could do about it. And people could walk away from me from listening to me, and that was okay. I had nowhere to go. I liked the problem. Okay, but I had nowhere to go. So I think that by quantumly looking at yourself, you take back control of your life. And healing is about what we do for everything else around us. People think that healing is internal. Healing is external, because in order to give, you have to give in order to receive. So if you're giving loving, caring, and kindness, then that loving, caring, kindness by law has to come to you. So I always say, as long as I'm doing hospice work, if I'm 900 years old, I'll still be alive. You know, so I think that I hate to say that that's the curse of staying alive, but I like my problem quantumly. So what really drove you to put all your resources and yourself into creating this program?
Well, for me, it was my own personal experiences. I was going through life, what what others would probably call suffering, that human mind, that 3D realm of I don't like my job, I don't like my car, I don't like my life. And so for me, I was taken on a path by the universe because I opened myself up. I said, I want something different, and I
I
gave them
didn't talk.
that opportunity.
Well, hey, and they take advantage of that.
They do. And for me, they had put me in line with a car accident. So I was T-boned. And at that point, my car was totaled. I couldn't go to work. And I had no choice but to just kind of sit with myself. And so after about 2.5 years of being permanently disabled from the waist down, I had handicap placards. I was working part-time of a part-time job, doing gardening, just something to get me through. But at that time, it was more of a, okay, this is not right. It doesn't seem right. It doesn't make sense because I was only 29 and I didn't understand. I just could not wrap my head around me being permanently disabled for the rest of my
Yeah,
life.
why me? Why me?
Right. It doesn't make sense. And so then again, I had another discussion with the universe. I said, okay, I want to get better. And if no one else is going to help me, then I have to find a way. And so I opened that path of surrendering, and it drove me or led me to discovering Dolores Cannon's QHHT, which is quantum healing hypnosis technique. And within that, I was able to ask all of my personal questions of why am I here? Why did that happen? Why am I disabled? What do I need to know now? And so within that, they said, well, she wasn't supposed to be a massage therapist. She was supposed to be a hypnotherapist. And at that time, I had already been a Reiki master for quite some time, and I was familiar with energy healing, meditation, and I had already taken a couple of spiritual psychedelic trips. I had tried the DMT a couple of times, and that opened me up to different realms. And so I was open to spirituality and the things in front of me. And so when I went through that hypnosis regression, I had discovered this path of hypnosis and that healing. And in that session, it healed me. I had healed myself just because I had surrendered and listened to my path, my purpose, my lesson, and the reason. And once I was able to understand that, I was able to, quote unquote, take the trash out and start over. And I was given a new path and a new route. And for me, it was so eye-opening that I was led to help other people, whether it be their eyesight or their hearing or PTSD or insomnia or anxiety, relationship issues. There's no limits to what we can do when we connect with the higher self and the mind. And so that for me is very powerful, and it led me to where I am now with sharing. And I think that's most important.
Yeah, people have to understand exactly what you just said, Melanie. They have to understand it's about understanding who you are. Who am I? What am I doing here? Well, you're a great, powerful, and mighty spiritual being with dignity, direction, and purpose. This is my mantra. And the only thing that can ever go wrong is you allow something to affect your dignity. And the greatest thing which skews your direction and your purpose. So the greatest indignity a person does to themselves is to limit their potential. Great, powerful, and mighty spiritual being with dignity, direction, and purpose. The only thing that can ever go wrong is you allow something to affect your dignity, which skews your direction and your purpose. So what is that? Your attitude towards yourself is what causes you to put something between your direction. Okay. Your dignity affects your dignity is about your attitude towards yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You are a great, powerful, and mighty spiritual being. That's the only way you got here. There is no other way. Okay? That's the only way you breathe air. Everything that breathes air and breathes out is transformation. Every single plant, everything that does that is transformation. I can remember in the panoramic life review, and this always was amazing to me. I was something that when you see your whole life pass before you in a 360 degree panorama, then you watch it from a second person point of view as if you were your own best friend. Because when your own best friend tells you you're funny or stupid, you're not offended by it. And it's the duality of your sense of humor that you're watching, everything that you've ever done. And then you literally become every person that you ever encounter. And you feel the direct results of your interaction between you and that person. This is how it works, okay? So I remember an event, but what caught me in watching my life pass before me is I had never, ever looked at flowers. They have, they're symmetric, they're there. I just, if it was camouflage, because I was in the Marine Corps, if it was camouflage, I'd study it if there was a difference in the color, because that means I may live or die. But I never. But in the panoramic life review, I remember looking at a flower arrangement, and it was different kinds of roses in this lattice work, and how much for that moment I had enjoyed it. I enjoyed how beautiful they were. And in the life review, it was the roses given back. And so I had to try to figure out if they were breathing. Okay. Then I tried to figure out, because photosynthesis, how does that operate? That's a complete different other system. Photosynthesis is a complete, everything has to have water, but it's a complete other system, photosynthesis. So I said, okay, could it be breathing? And how was it sharing back to me my observation? I mean, this is the kind of stuff my obsessive compulsive self thinks about. Okay. If you kill me 3 or 4 times, I'll get the point. And so when I look at it, it was that I was in harmony and distracted from what I thought about me in the situation I was dealing with. Okay. And I just admired and communed with that. Somebody who never saw beauty in it saw beauty in it. I mean, there's so many things about when you have your life review and you already know that everybody, all systems say, unless you don't believe there's one after this, which makes you stupid. Okay. In the question, I'm sorry. If you think that you die, that's just somebody tricking you into believing that you're not a spiritual being. Okay. That's all nonsense. I have seen me. And I used to tell a joke. I'd say, well, look, everybody, I had a lady one time, because I have this accent, which I'm so proud of. I had this lady one time, she said, I want to ask you something, Mr. Brinkley. She said, what about hell? What about hell? Okay. Well, my answer was, honey, while I was over there, they didn't bring it up, and I damn sure didn't. I said, so when you let go and you go down the tunnel, you come in that place of bright, beautiful light, and you're met by that being of light. You start asking them where hell is. You ask them where hell is. And I'm sure if you stamping your feet and making that same face you're making at me, they're going to show you where it is. But I'm not interested in hell when you're living in that heavenly state. So I think that people have to have proper nutrition, proper attitude, and not be trusting. Not be trusting. Because the world is shifting. And it's shifting so fast. It's shifting so fast that you can be taken advantage of. Which means you're going to have a bad opinion about your dignity. Because you get mad at you is your big problem. And you're not liking you. Because if you liked you, you wouldn't be in the situation that you found yourself. All right. So So when the world is shifting so fast and people are grasping to find balance and symmetry and anchoring, you can't be trusting. And it's not to say that people are bad or evil or they have some ulterior motive. Okay, I'm not trying to say that like that. I don't mean it that way. I mean, you look at it 2 or 3 times before you decide something. I didn't tell you not to do it. I just said you think about it, because the patterns are setting every minute and literally every breath. And it doesn't really matter what people think, Melanie. This is what's happening. If you're a big Maya, we believe in the Mayas. Okay, the Mayas said December the 21st, 2012. Okay, well, what does that put us in, the 13th year of a birth of a new age? Okay, and the age of Aquarius, this is where we are. Look at the stability of the currency. Look at where world wars are. Do we sit on the precipice of world war? Are they killing women and children? Are they killing women and children and old people in the Holy Land? And is the definition of God being defined before our eyes? All that stuff is tens of thousands of people dying. And most of them are not soldiers. Okay, so as we take this in December, I believe that where the Middle East is and where the Israeli and Palestinian issue and the global values are, the Israelis say God gave them that land. That's what they say. Who's God? Is it the God of Abraham, the God of old, that jealous, that forceful, condemning God? Or is it the one that came to teach a new way? All right. And you see, then you have to stop and realize that this is the Christmas season. In a few weeks will be the birthday of a whole quantitative value of religion and spiritual identity and the definition of God. And when people don't realize that it's a holy war, the Judeo-Christian heritage and Allah against Jehovah is happening in the Holy Land today. So if people don't believe that we are in a shifting conscious time and they don't believe the 3 things I just told them, tell me that I didn't say exactly where we are today. And on Christmas Eve, what will you be thinking? I'm going to be thinking like I've been since it started. Stop killing women and children. If you want to fight, men can do whatever they want. Just get together, move the women and children, and all that you're going to hide behind it. That just is not true. When you start destroying people the way they're being destroyed, that mindset will explode. And so the definition of religion, the Judeo-Christian heritage and the Judeo-Christian heritage and Islam is a battling right now in the Holy Land. That's insanity. That whoever we are and wherever we come from and whatever our problems are, if there is a problem that you think you have that's going to be greater than the world war, then I don't know what you think about yourself, but it's too much. It's too much. And if you don't realize that you are the one that's going to make the difference, your thoughts, your actions. I called my congressman and I called my senators and I told them I was 100% against killing old people, women, and children. I'm 100% against it. And I don't pick a side. I don't have a side. I'm against it. And whatever it takes to stop that is what I'm for. Okay, so as this season comes and we look at our quantum divine selves, which we must, because the basis of our reality is killing people right now in the Middle East, then there's something wrong. And this is the time when people have to stop, quantumly heal themselves using your system. I was a really good friend of Dolores Cannon. I mean, we were friends. She loved me. I used to go and do Arkansas with her, and we would just laugh, and we would sit around in the evenings by ourselves. And we would laugh so hard about stuff that our stomachs would hurt. I had to tell her, I said, this was one wonderfully funny woman. Oh, God. And she could say stuff out of left field, Melanie, and you would never know that it would even be possible that somebody would be doing that and saying the things that she would say. God, that was a smart woman. So I knew her well. So anything that Dolores Cannon has done, I'm supporting it and listening and talking to you and seeing that you're giving people like me a chance to talk to your generation and your world. But mine is from a point of identifying spirituality and looking at, if you think whatever you're doing is right or wrong, see what the religious basis of the spiritual identity of the world you live in is. And if you see it as perfect and everything is working in harmony, then it's you. And if it's not, it's them. Okay, so many of us have too many thems. Right. And our point is align ourselves and take proactive movements to change that. And I see you doing that. So I'm just glad to be here. Yeah. What do you want to talk about?
I would love to talk about your near-death experiences. And so I know that you were struck by lightning. So let's
Twice.
Talk about that. Twice. Let's talk about that.
Okay, September the 17th at 7:05 p.m. on a Wednesday afternoon during a thunderstorm, I got struck by lightning. And I grew up a tough guy, you know, football, sports, Marine Corps, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden I lifted out of, I was burning and on fire. It hit me in the neck. I was holding the phone like this, and it came down the phone line. It hit me in the neck. It melted the phone in my hand. Didn't burn my hand, hit me in the neck. Threw me out of my shoes, suspended me in the air, and slammed me back down on the bed. I'm burning and I'm on fire and I'm paralyzed. I could not move. And so the guy on the other end of the phone was a corpsman in the Navy, and he came over, TM. He came over and he was doing resuscitation, and Sandy, my girlfriend, had called the paramedics. And so I'm there until they move me into the ambulance. And I'm looking around at the ambulance, and I realized that I was not in my body. I've been observing this whole event as though without realizing, I am watching it and participating in it. You know, I'm watching and participating in this. And when they got me in the ambulance, I realized I was over the shoulder of the paramedic working on me. I was over his shoulder looking down at me. And I looked over his shoulder and I could see my face, and I had these marks all in it, and I was blue, my lips were blue, and this, and I always thought, I thought I was a much better looking guy than that. So, and then all of a sudden this tunnel begins to form over my left shoulder, and it moves and swirls, and I all of a sudden go down the tunnel. Okay, when they got me to the hospital, I'm not there anymore. When they got me, this is what I constructed to know what happened. They got to the hospital, and the medical record said patient unconscious, patient not breathing, no EKG. They covered me with a sheet, and they rolled me into a room, and they were just waiting to either take me downstairs or go to the morgue. All right, and I was going down the tunnel. I came into this place of bright, beautiful light. Remember, Melanie, there was no such thing as a near-death experience when I had this. Raymond Moody was right at that moment was writing his book, Life After Life. It was his book that coined the term near-death experiences. Well, I met Raymond Moody a year and a half after I had this lightning, and Raymond was cool. And he asked all the right questions. I didn't tell people crap. I just had to learn to walk, and I had to learn to be able to stand up, and had to be able to not pass out and fall in the yard and things like that. So I watched and read Raymond's book, and I talked to Raymond, who was a philosopher. He's an MD and a psychiatrist, but he was a philosopher. And I'm listening to a philosopher ask me questions philosophically about the near-death experience because his scientific mind would not allow him to do it any other way. So he became the philosopher, not the doctor scientist or doctor psychiatrist. And from philosophy, he created this perspective about it. So watching all of this, when I came to this place at the end of the tunnel, there was this beautiful silvery shimmering energy. And it was the first time that I looked down to see my hand. And I always worried, since I'm left-handed, why would I look at my right hand? Okay, this is things I worry about. But my hand wasn't there. And when I focused, my hand appeared. Okay, because I started looking for it to hold it up. But it wasn't there when I first looked at it. Okay, and then it showed itself. And when my attention turned away from it, before I was gone, it disappeared again. All right, so I had to worry about that for like 2 years. Why did I look at my right hand instead of my left hand? And I met this being, and this being was, he wasn't Jesus or God or my daddy or anything like that. It was somebody whose job was to make sure I was okay. You know, that was their job, and to be reflective. And as I was thinking, as I'm trying to think and analyze what it is that's going on, it spreads it out. It makes it fluffy as opposed to some concentrated hard thing. Even though I'm still thinking about it, it makes it fluffy. And then I went into this, I had the panoramic life review. And I saw my whole life pass before me, watched it from a second person point of view, became every person I'd ever encountered. And then I asked myself, as you define God, if God couldn't come today based on how you define it, and God sent you in the life you just reviewed, what difference did God make? If the divine force that operates within all things sent you, okay, then what difference did you and that divine force make? Okay, and that's the end of it. That's what the life review is. I had that, and whoa, people want to know who judges who. You judge you. Who knows more about you and why you did it than you? Nobody. Okay, so you judge you. And then I went to these crystal cities, and in these crystal cities, it was just so wild. And the only way I can describe the feeling that people have, since I can't say sensual, I used to say it was sensual, but then people started thinking about sex. Okay, so I had to find another way to express it. It's this: that you are known and that you know. You know that you're divinely connected, and you know that the divine connection is to you. You are spiritually recognized as you recognize. Okay, so that place, and then these 13 beings appeared, and there was 12 in a row and one to the upper right side, and that being would designate another being, and that being would radiate outward. So that was all I saw in these rainbow colors, is like a neon sign, but soft and magnificent. And then this information, this box, I always thought it like it was a laptop, and I think that was a foretelling nature, and it would send it. And I all of a sudden was having an experience that I was a part of. And Saved by the Light, it became the boxes of knowledge. Okay, so these were events that I had seen, and as it would come, I would live in an experience that I didn't know it was going to be a future event. I mean, I didn't believe in any of that stuff anyway. So I didn't know it was going to be future events. And I went through 12 of them. And then the final part of it was to create programs that allow people to quantumly heal themselves using frequency. So my entire life has been about doing that. I've already done it a couple of times, but I just didn't. I wait till the time when the next part of the boxes of knowledge shows itself, which I'm sure is 2024. All right. So, and I came back with that as my mission, and I have been on that mission about healing practices in palliative and end-of-life care now for 48 years. Hospice is a part of it, and how to understand how people deal with grief, loss, bereavement, and something that allows to affect their dignity. And how do you take the most precious part of the existence here, other than birth, is the celebration of the life, and you're going home, and your job is done, and you came here to do certain things, because this is where people miss, Melanie. And I'm not talking emphatically, it's just my personality, is until you get a grip on the mission, which is if God couldn't come today and God sent you, and you look at your life review, then what is the mission? It's practicing being a God. Love thy neighbor as thyself, and do unto others as you have others do unto you. Okay, if something shakes that belief, why I said not to be trusting. If something shakes that belief system, then the whole system is failing you. Okay, when it's really not. It's not, because it's in evolution. So when you think of that, then the number one mission in life is to practice being a God. Love that neighbor as thyself, do unto others as you have others do unto you, and to practice it, because that's what we're all looking for. No matter where you were, no matter how mad the world was, everything that you described to me before you had that car accident is normal, because the world you've been raised in is a lie. It's a lie. So never feel bad that you were there, because it means that you had just seen reality, and it's so contorted and distorted the truth that those situations and psychologies are created in the story. Okay, so when a person finds himself there, what they have to do is realize, who would you think the divine force was? Loving, caring, compassionate, all-knowing, thoughtful. You write down how do you practice being God? Well, you write down everything you think God is: loving, caring, hopeful, thankful, compassionate. And then you look at how many times per day do you have an opportunity to be one or more of those things? The answer will be all day, every day. Okay? So everything that you think God is you're capable of doing every single one of those all day, every day. So then it's just common knowledge. Got to practice being a God. Okay? So I quit hitting people in the face. I let them talk. Okay. I just let them talk, because I didn't listen to nothing. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't care.
Right. And how do you feel that those experiences changed your personality? Because I mean, you're obviously not aggressive anymore.
Well, it's not necessary.
Yeah.
It doesn't achieve the goal.
Right.
It's you understand, as a spiritual being, you have access to rules and laws. You have access to it. It's getting yourself to the place to access it, which is really the quantum healing. How do I access my divinity? If Dannion says I'm a great, powerful, and mighty spiritual being, let me look up the definitions of those words. Okay, let's go look up great, powerful, and mighty, spiritual being, dignity, direction, and purpose. And you have defined yourself. There you are. That's how you got here. Now, any place you want to go based on the definitions of those words that you want to counter or engage me in, come on and get you some. I just can't wait. I'm so glad you're coming. I don't know what to do. Okay, so that quantum balancing and healing becomes so important as we move into the shift, because it's going to come so fast and so quick. Like how the world is shifting and changing. The economic system is collapsing. We owe $33 trillion. It's over. Okay. Do you think we're ever going to pay $33 trillion? They want $1 billion to fight a war where they're killing women and children. Okay. If you're near Ukraine and you're killing women and children, I don't want to hear it. It's winter and it's cold. I don't want to hear it. And if you're not grown up enough or mature enough to understand that, then you need to give that power to somebody else. In the story. So by knowing that one of your missions is to practice being a God, and then you have to define it. Mine is hospice. I go to church. It's in hospice. Okay. Or a nursing home. I'm at church. Do I go to church often? Very often. Right. So then I have defined who I am, and I've defined a pattern by which to observe myself as a spiritual being. And then you have to develop from there. That's a quantum healing nature.
Right. And when you came back from your first experience from being struck by lightning, what was that like when you woke up? And when did you wake up after that?
I was dead for 28 minutes. Became completely paralyzed for 7 days, partially paralyzed for 7 months, 2 years to learn to walk and feed myself. And I had to deal with the fact that this physical body had no power against my spiritual self. And I had deluded myself into thinking I was a big, strong, tough guy. And I'd forgotten my mission was to take that strength and to put it towards supporting and helping other people, creating to uplift. And I had to just deal with that. Well, I try to talk to people about near-death experiences. And what you learn is to keep them from having to go through what I've already been through 3 times. I mean, let me tell you about the panoramic life review. It doesn't just pick up where the last one left off. It's still the same life. It's one life, okay? And the system doesn't change. When you get up and you go down the tunnel, you go have a life review. That's different and very, mine is analytical. It's how you going to, I don't believe it if you don't show it to me that way, all right? So everybody's going to go through it, right? So you're going to come to the same conclusions that I'm describing. No matter how you go through it, it's still the same process. So I had to just deal with it, How in the world could I have been that stupid?
Right.
How could I have been that crazy? And how could I have not somewhere along the line identified my spiritual self, but had a lot to do with physically, I had to learn to walk. I had to learn to sit. I had a great night one night, Melanie. Sandy and I were going to go out to dinner. I had my little walking canes. I weighed about 145 pounds. And I'm a little walking canes. I got on welder's glasses, look like Ichabod Crane. And I'm going to eat. We go into the Chinese restaurant, the one we'd gone to, so many times. And I sit there and I pick up the spoon to eat the soup. And it triggered something. And I fell over in the soup, burnt my face, and fell on the floor. Okay. I had to deal with that kind of stuff all the time. I was walking on the patio. I fell against the wall. I broke my nose. I passed out. When I woke up, blood was running out of my nose and ants were up in my eyes and up in my nose. And I couldn't move. I couldn't raise my hand because the lightning hit me here and went down my spine. So all that balancing and all that stuff. And I just lose it, hit the floor. And I think that affected a lot of the forced study of myself, because I had to deal with that. I had to deal with it. And then because I wouldn't buy into all that was spiritually important, I got struck by lightning again. Okay, doing the same thing, a different house, a different bedroom, talking on a corded phone. And it was to say, okay, Dannion, keep it up. Keep it up. So I always look at it from that point because it brings me a joyous place of my relationship with the divine. We are friends. What are you going to do? Kill me?
Right. And then you had developed this program for the VA and for veterans. Can you share with us that as well?
Well, I decided that what I could do, being from a Marine, what I could do with what I knew about death and dying is that I could go and help veterans, okay, who are dealing with transition and their caregivers. And many veterans don't have anybody. They have nobody. Nobody comes to see them. No one does anything. And I am one, so I can carry on conversations. So I started visiting veterans. And I just focused on hospice with veterans. I'd done hospice for years before that, but it was just something that I did, okay? It was instead of a passion. And dying veterans became a passion for me. And then I looked at the structure of the VA, and it was almost about to have palliative position, but it had no hospice program. You died in intensive care. And they kept trying to keep you alive, and they kept on going on and on and on because everybody wants you to stay alive, blah, 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 blah. And you got brain cancer and ovarian cancer, and you have prostate cancer, and you have colon cancer, and you got brain cancer. And they want you to they keep going to try to keep you alive. Oh, that's crazy. So I said, I have to create a program, which became the Twilight Brigade, which became one of the largest end-of-life care volunteer programs for dying veterans in American history. It wasn't the biggest, but it was the best. Okay. And I saw that the VA in 2004 had no hospice program. And so I decided to create the hospice program for them. And I didn't know that's exactly what I was doing. But the models that I used to train people became so effective because in VAs across America, heads of programs took my hospice training. I had nurses and doctors who would take that training and go back into the VA. And then I had it in 20 hospitals. And so the VA came, and I helped co-write the standard end-of-life care model that is now called No Vet Die Alone. That is the hospice end-of-life care model for the Veterans Administration. So to be able to get it from the dead, and to successfully integrate what I learned in it into the largest medical system in America, the VA. I think I'm quite proud of that. And how I did it by the techniques and the understandings of using what I know about my spiritual identity. So quantumly and in healing, where do you start, everybody? You start with taking trace minerals. You go on the phone when you finish this program, you go on Amazon or you go to your local health food store and you get trace minerals. And you rigorously take them. I do it every other day. I don't do every day. I take my structure every other day. Why? Because my body, I think, needs to rest. So I do it every other day, where for years I did it every day. I think that trace minerals are the key to sustaining quantum healing within yourself. It's the key. The other thing is water. You go get you a gallon of water and you set it wherever you are, and you set it in front of you. And you watch how much of it you drink. Watch how much of it you drink. And remember, you're 72% water. Okay? Watch how much of it you drink. And if you're really smart, you get a piece of paper, a little small piece of paper, and you write on it, let this help me understand love more. And every time you look at that bottle, you see that every drink you take of it is to help you understand love more. You'll see how much faster you drink that gallon of water. And not only that, you would have structured the value of that water to achieve that goal. Okay, so I usually, getting up from the dead, I usually eat fruit. I don't eat solid food. I eat fruits. I take trace minerals. I eat fruits, and I take certain vegetables, and certain vitamins. And I usually keep it liquid. It's in the blender because my system needs to balance, and it needs to find its harmony again. And this is what it's got to do. And so it's where everybody detoxes. You have to have a detox program. No matter what it is, you have to have a system that you realize you're detoxing your system, not losing weight. Not trying to lose weight, but to detox, allowing your body to structurally detox itself. Okay. And then you put into place in your life the value of who you are in the eyes of someone or in the eyes of who you want to be. And then you make a plan to go after it. And that's how I did hospice. And that's how it became that. And now I'm doing the centers. I'm structuring my whole life around in a moving target, in a change in reality, and at a certain age, because I know this is what's next. And so when people are going to quantumly heal themselves, the second thing other than trace minerals and water is breathing. If you don't breathe and you don't realize that spirit is represented as air. When you look at air, which is 80% nitrogen. When you look at air, air is God in the physical manifestation of the symbolic identity of a spiritual perspective within this dimensional framework. Did that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's it. So when you breathe into divine, how deep are you breathing divine in? And what are you thinking about it when you breathe that breath out? Because remember, you breathe in, it fills up your 8 sinus cavities, and then you stop. And then you breathe out. You can't breathe out without stopping based on that you breathed in. Well, right there is where all the divinity operates in your life. And the more you pull in his air, which means more oxygen that gets into your bloodstream and gets to your heart and your brain and everything. But I don't look at it from that point. But the more you breathe that divine force in, and the fact that you set an intention to achieve a goal when you breathe out, is how the world changes around you. And that's quantum healing today.
Right. Definitely. Yes, that's so true and so beautiful. And I think it's so important for us to start tuning in and to becoming aware and to address our healing without judgment and without ego. And what do you feel your perspective is on this human life, and that human evolution? Why do you think that we are all here in this time, in this place, and going through these lessons individually? What is your take on the earth and that human evolution and experience?
We are the best there is. Every one of us that's here now, we are the champions. Only the best of the best. We are the light bearers. Honey, we will keep the light lit. You come on down here, God, and let them all arbor and mess around and do whatever else they're doing. If you're listening to this broadcast, you listen to this podcast, this is who you are. Get over it. Okay? Now, structure yourself divinely. Practice being a God, whether it's being nice or smiling or picking up trash, something. Structure it and make that a part of the integral part of your life. Okay, because that means you're creating that flow of that figure 8. You're creating that flow. Creating that flow. And then look at what you want to do. Most of it is get away, is to be appreciated in the world that you live in. And someone being appreciated of the effort that you're trying, good, bad, or indifferent, that you're doing everything you can. Okay, so I think here we are the absolute single very best there has ever been. Okay, and that's the lowest one of us that's here at this particular juncture in the next 2 years. Nobody's better. So I'm glad everybody who's listening to this is here. I'm glad that everybody's here. And if we'd all just kind of wake up and open up our hearts and minds, we won't be killing women and children. We won't be driving elderly people out of their homes. Don't tell me that 86% of the population of the Gaza Strip are now huddled in million people, or 2 million people are huddled in some place. And just like in the Ukraine, I can't stand that. I think this is all insane, and the part that bothers me about it, understanding the military, is they're just getting rid of all their old weapons. They've moved into quantum weaponry. We have lasers, not guns. We have lasers, we have sound devices, and we have lasers, and we understand theoretical quantum mechanics. So what do you need with what do you need with a gun or a bomb? What do you need a gun? But what do you need with bombs and all that ordnance? You just get rid of it. Or you make money making it. You manufacture it. So you got it. War is good business. Killing women and children has now become a way to hire people. Now, no one can tell me that that's sane.
Right.
So as we kind of pull this together, so I have things I need to get done. Let me cover this quickly, so in case you have one more question. I'm sincerely thankful for you being you. And I'm sincerely thankful that you healed yourself. And I'm sincerely thankful that you are helping Conscious Life Expo get to as many people as possibly can that's looking to be quantumly healed. And I believe that what you're doing and how you're doing it to create the platforms to give people the opportunity to see this information. I'm thankful. Second, I don't want anybody, I hope this airs before February the 9th, but I don't want anybody who hears this to not come. If you're in the California area, or you're in Southern California, or you're anywhere that hears this, I would miss the Conscious Life Expo in February. I wouldn't miss it. And if you do miss it, come back to this channel, come back to this place where Melanie has it, and see if it's up, if any of it was streamed. Please, everybody, don't mess around. And next, to close it off, to set quantum healing, to show that all the things I've said in this program is right, is pay attention to your trace minerals. Every compound, enzyme, and solution reaction in your body, which is every reaction, is by a trace mineral. And I'm a big fan of Linus Paulding, 2 times Nobel Prize winner in genetics. So he says all illnesses can be deduced down to a lack of a trace mineral. I believe that. I take mine. Next, how much water are you drinking? And why are you drinking it? Or why are you not drinking enough of it? You're 72% water. And so dehydration is epidemic. And then third, breathing. How long can you live without breathing? Or as I said, how long do you think you can live without God? That's ever how long you can hold your breath. Okay? That's the only distance that you can live without God, because God, as you see God as air, is self-sustaining. You've got to have it. Is oxygen, which is only 17% of the air you're breathing in. So you're not breathing deep enough or long enough to extract as much as you can. And you don't have an attitude or appreciation, because it's an autonomic movement. You don't have an attitude or appreciation of it, even though you can't live without it. What if you had to think about every breath you were breathing? It would distract you from practicing being a God. And the other reason you're here is to see what you can get into, to figure out if you can get out of it. What's the reason you're here? A spiritual being is a biggity, sometimes arrogant, and they think there's nothing that they can create that they can't figure out a way to get out of. So when people want to know how they got themselves in all the crap they got themselves in, they did it. Okay. So now that means you can get out of it. And those 3 things set the power, focus, and presence of quantum healing today in a reality. And so I thank you for having me. I hope you have me back again. And if I'm available anytime that you need me or something I can do, don't hesitate to call me. Or people can go to lightstreamers.com and get to Mel, and it'll get to me. But if you need to get to me, then they can get to me through you, and they can get to me through lightstreamers.com. And Melanie, thanks again for being you. Thanks for healing yourself. Thanks to Dolores Cannon. And thanks to meeting you and being able to hug you and hold you and know what kind of wonderful person you are. Then I just appreciate you inviting me on this show.
Well, thank you so much. And it has been such a pleasure to learn more about you. And Dannion will also be at the Conscious Life Expo Friday, February 9th, 2024. It's going to be at 2:00 p.m. So please don't miss that. And again, you can find his website, and I will be sharing his information there. And for anyone listening, thank you so much for being here and just following your heart and following through with your past and purpose and listening to those messages that come from within as well as without. So you can find the Quantum Healing Today podcast on any podcast platform internationally. And you can also find us on YouTube at the Quantum Disclosure Project channel. And more information will be shared. And yes, we will definitely speak with Dannion in the future. So thank you so much again. And is there any last messages you would like to share with the collective today?
That I love each and every one of them as much as I love me. And that's an awful lot.
Definitely. We love you so much, Dannion. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie.